2025 Twin Cities Film Fest presented by Stearns Bank. I'm Ms. Shannan Paul, joining you from the Marcus West End Cinema's red carpet, and we are continuing on. We have our great, whenever we talk about our documentaries and especially documentary series, we always appreciate getting our filmmakers here. So right now we are talking to all of the principals from All In, the St. Paul Public Schools literacy journey. So thank you very much for joining us. I really just want to hear more, especially when we start with our directors and our CEOs and all of our cinematographers. What's it like putting together this story here with our St. Paul Public Schools, and why you see this as a social all of a sudden my brain stopped. Why kind of thing, a social issue that we want to share with everyone?
All right, I'll start. I mean, I think really, literacy is the foundation for success. It's kind of the gateway to opportunity. And, a lot of statistics and studies show that if you don't have a good, solid foundation for literacy by the end of third grade, there's a lot that makes the road tougher for you. And so, making sure that people have access to all sorts of education and even, future successes like healthcare and, future education, things like that. There's so much that goes into being able to be literate. And so, it really is just such a crucial part of someone's life.
And especially since my introduction didn't make it sound like it, as an English major and someone but also grew up in a marginalized community and was one of those people that was like, no, I think that this is important to me, even though people in my social setting or people in my community were like, well, why is that important to you? Being able to go, no, it is, and how we can make a difference. We appreciate you sharing that story.
Yeah, no, thank you. And, we're appreciative, too, for everyone that was a part of the story, because we got to really understand, I think everybody hears a lot about the statistics that are out there in terms of literacy or illiteracy. But when you get to know some of the humans behind that and folks that are really working to advance literacy, both folks that are struggling with literacy and also some of the educators that are working toward literacy, it really was gratifying and a huge honor to be able to help kind of meet them and be able to tell their stories.
Well, as we move on to our cinematographers, so Annabelle, what was it like working with the staff, working with the students, and being able to help showcase that story?
Yeah, I think it's really an honor just to be able to tell this story, and I think we tried our best to humanize the characters, the educators, the students, the families, and show, because I think there's some, maybe some stereotypes around who's affected by illiteracy, and so we were trying to show, like, them outside of school and them and with their families and who these people are, because like it is really an issue that affects a wide range of people, and it can affect people for different reasons, because it is a systemic issue. It's not necessarily just like, oh, this reason or that reason. So yeah, we tried to really show that through the video.
Well, does it make it more difficult to tell these kind of stories when you are working against that systemic issue, when you're working against the people already, in air quotes, think they know what the story is? How do you actually get that produced and make sure that it's what you're trying to actually present to everyone?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it is diving into those stories and really hearing from people, and it's just, yeah, I mean, there's stories from these, especially these families that they're going through some tough times, and like everybody comes to school with different baggage and different things that they're carrying, that some things that you can see, some things that you can't. And I think that there have been systems in place for many years that to no fault of the students, like they haven't been able to to pick up on the reading and the writing. And St. Paul received they received over $200 million in COVID dollars from the federal government, and most of that went toward totally rebuilding their literacy program. And St. Paul coming out and saying, like, we haven't always served our students the best that we probably should have, and now now that we know better, we're going to do better, and the results they've been seeing have been amazing.
Well, speaking of results, how can anyone who's watching right now actually make a difference as well in sharing this story and actually continuing on the differences that are started right now?
I think there's certainly different ways. I know the documentary is shared on our website, Captivate Media Consulting. It's on St. Paul Public Schools website. Right. But I think, just in terms of like actionable ways to get involved, one of the things we heard from St. Paul Public Schools and the educators was just simple things is like, read with young folks in your life, get them interested and curious about reading from a young age. And then, if you are someone that watches the film and says, I want to do more, I want to get involved, how can I help? Right. Reach out to your local school district and say, what can I do? Can I volunteer? Can I get involved somehow? and that will go a long way.
Right. Well, as we start to wrap up, I just want to give each of you an opportunity to go, here's what I really took away from this project. And if there's something that you want people to really remember, what is it that you'd want to share with people?
I'd say the thing I took away is, certainly there are some folks that have, things that are working against them in life, and that can be problematic. But even under the very best circumstances, reading is a skill like almost anything else that just takes practice. And so I would say, just try to do what you can to get folks, engaged in reading from a young age, and just work at it. And I think especially too, if you're a student or someone that struggles with literacy, just know it's like shooting a basketball. The more you do it, the better you're going to get. So just keep at it, and you're going to do great.
Right. And what would you like to add?
I think my biggest takeaway from the documentary was just realizing how literacy is kind of the gateway to just anything and everything, and how literacy should be a civil right. And so we should work as much as we can to make sure that we're upping those percentages, because we are in a crisis right now.
Right. And you?
Yeah, I would just add that literacy is a civil rights issue, and for many years there's been in our country blockages of inequalities, and literacy is the gateway. And looking at that through a civil rights lens was something that I had never done before until working on this film.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing it. Let's give them your website one more time just so they can find it.
Sure, it's captivatemedia.us.
Fabulous. And so we always appreciate all of our documentary filmmakers and all of our filmmakers in general coming to join us here at the Twin Cities Film Fest. You can find out more about their film and all of the great films that we still have going on through the remainder of the festival, and also what we have going on throughout the year as far as our educational outcomes by going to twincitiesfilmfest.org. So thank you again for joining us. We'll see you back here soon on the 2025 Twin Cities Film Fest Red Carpet presented by Stearns Bank. We'll see you back here in a moment.